Treasure is a developer that has gained a strong fan base in the gaming community over the years, and many of their titles are frequently included in lists of the best games ever made. Though not all of their games get equal recognition, and a few of them even get overshadowed by some of their more massively popular releases. Such is the case with Light Crusader, an eccentric but awesome action-adventure game developed by Treasure, published by SEGA, and released on the Genesis and Mega Drive in all regions in 1995. Before we head off into this dungeon adventure, be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to get early access to videos, exclusive videos and live streams, access to the internet's most friendly Discord gaming community, and more. Back to Light Crusader. The protagonist is Sir David, a knight who looks like he'd be the singer of a Whitesnake cover band playing in a dive bar in Muncie, Indiana. But don't let looks deceive you. David is quite capable with a sword, has impressive athletic abilities such as being able to perform high jumps, and has the ability to use magic by combining elemental resources he finds to cast various spells. David has been tasked by the King of Greenrow to investigate a case in which residents of the kingdom have been mysteriously disappearing. While the cause of these disappearances has not yet been determined, rumors abound that it may have something to do with the wizard Roke, who once served in the king's court but left holding a grudge after having a falling out with the king. So David sets off on his investigation with some gold given to him by the king to fund his research. David is also able to receive help from some of the people in Greenrow, such as a fortune teller who can give hints on what he should do next, and the princess, who is an expert on ancient languages and text. Supplies can be purchased from an armory selling weapons, armor, and pendants, an inn selling potion and elements, and a tavern selling consumables that refill HP. The main gameplay starts when David discovers a secret entrance in the cemetery that leads to a huge underground dungeon full of puzzles, monsters, the undead, wizards who are part of a cult seeking to unseal a powerful demon, and even a civilization of goblins who live underground that fear the humans and view them as dangerous monsters. As David explores the dungeon, he will find more clues to discover how this dungeon and its inhabitants might relate to his investigation. The isometric perspective of Light Crusader might remind players of Landstalker, another classic action-adventure release on the Genesis that uses a similar perspective, and there are many similarities. As is the case with Landstalker, there is also a lot of platforming from an isometric perspective, and that might take some getting used to, especially because the controls are rather sensitive in Light Crusader, so one small mispressing on the D-pad might mean you'll have to exit and re-enter a room to restart a puzzle. This can be frustrating at times, but it won't happen as frequently after you get used to the controls, though some modern players might have a strong negative reaction to this kind of retro jank. So do take this into consideration before playing the game. The controls as well as the overall presentation of Light Crusader can be described as eccentric, but that adds to the charm in the game in my view. One of the more eccentric features in the game is that you must both be pressing the D-pad in the direction of a character and hit the same button that attacks with a sword to start a conversation with an NPC. When pressing the D-pad against another character, this will also physically push an NPC in that direction. So David will be engaging in conversations while pushing others around and occasionally accidentally hit them with his sword. There is no penalty for attacking NPCs, so you'll just get a message saying oops, and then everything continues with no consequences. Little details like these just add to the quirky humor in the game. The combat system might take some getting used to because a hack and slash approach won't be successful, while the isometric perspective and the tendency to loot enemies for item drops might remind players of a game like Diablo. The combat here is more based around hitting an enemy and then moving around the enemy to get in another hit while avoiding your opponent's counterattack. Jumping and attacking is also quite useful because it can knock enemies back, and this can separate enemies that attack in groups so you can pick them off one by one. The magic system is very fun to use, and combining the different elements to use different spells reminds me a little of how the gun power-ups worked in Gunstar Heroes. Though here it is more complex because you can choose between 1 and 4 elements at a time, and each combination is a unique spell. These can range from healing, defense buffing, different elemental attacks, and even an ability to instantly defeat undead enemies. Light Crusader is also a very puzzle-heavy game, and most of your time will be spent exploring and solving puzzles during the first half. The puzzles can vary in difficulty, but they are very fun overall, and you won't encounter many head-scratchers, but the sensitive controls does make a few of them harder than they need to be. Fortunately, that only applies to a handful of them. That you won't have to do a lot of fighting until the latter half of the game works well well because you will be able to have much stronger weapons and armor by that point that will make the combat a lot easier. The bosses vary a lot in difficulty, but only a handful of them are a real challenge, and almost all of them can be cheesed by using magic. A few of them can be difficult to hit because they either move swiftly or block, but if you use the Judgment spell by combining all 4 magical elements, it does 3 hits of unblockable damage that homes in on the boss's weak spot, and it works on every boss except for the final one, so it will make the fights much easier. Just be sure to wait until the spell hits 3 times before casting it again, because it will just start over and cancel out the other hits if you didn't wait until it was finished. There are also some interesting optional activities in the game, like being able to fight in the Goblin Arena once you have obtained the Goblin costume. In the arena you will face 3 opponents, and you can defeat them either by reducing all of their HP or pushing them off of the platform where the fighting is taking place. Winning will give you a large amount of gold, and there is no penalty for losing, so this is the best way to earn money, and it is extremely helpful because the items in the shops are rather pricey. The dungeon itself even has a few shops. There is a cat who will purchase things from your inventory, and this is the only way to get rid of unwanted items, as well as a decent way to get gold. There is a trading post in the Goblin Village where you can exchange fish for steak, and one of the wizard cultists will sell you powerful potions that can only be obtained from his shop. The one that instantly raises all of your elemental resources to their maximum capacity is very nice to have for boss fights. Even though it doesn't get as much recognition as other games in Treasure's catalog, I still consider Light Crusader to be one of their best and most unique games, as well as being one of the standout classics of the Genesis library. It is also easily available to modern players because it is included in the SEGA Genesis Classics collection, available on modern consoles and Steam. The Steam version can also be purchased individually for 99 cents, so there's only a very small investment involved if you want to give this game a try and see if it's for you. If you are a fan of old school action-adventure games and can handle a little bit of retro jank in the controls, then Light Crusader is a must play.